Like, for instance, our guest house in the house.
He's going.
So, like,
My lights
water,
flickered.
like, the drains got covered with leaves and, like, a bunch of debris and stuff. And then it...
Debris.
I said, and then it flooded, it flooded.
There was a nice debris.
No.
Yeah, like, I had to, like, vacuum it up.
Whatever you got to do, I guess. I'm sorry to hear about that. That's gonna smell bad.
Yeah, it was a smile.
See?
That's all your foot bacteria from walking around barefoot, getting into your floors, and you water them, and they're all like,
Cool water then.
that's how sticky feet?
No.
Okay.
Jose, my lights flickered.
Wow, yeah, gnarly.
Yeah, it was
Your
pretty
window
scary.
broke?
Cracked.
Just in straight up wind, or something hit it?
Something hit it. Pure wind.
I was so scared because I have really old, really bad windows. And they're, like, really thin.
They rattle.
Yeah.
I have seen windows explode in the wind.
I was totally picturing, like, me sleeping and it just all this flash.
Yeah, it was wild.
I was prepared.
That's why you
We used to sleep inside of a woodshed up on the mountains. And one day we were like sitting up, like, man, this is really windy, and the lightning struck. And as it struck, there was like a big gust of wind, and you could see the big sliding glass door like changing shape.
Oh.
And we're like, oh, we're gonna die! Oh, we're gonna die!
My power went out at like 6 and it's like still out.
Where do you live?
I live like up in the mountains.
Yeah. The tree fell over the branch somewhere. Over the line somewhere. Other chaos? Everybody okay? Yeah.
I was in the shower and I saw what I thought was lightning like 10 times really, really quickly. And it turned out my dad was just outside with the flashlight and it looked like that through the window.
Cool.
And I got all excited that there was lightning, but it wasn't.
Yes.
I like was thinking
Yeah.
Every time this happens, it's just like
It was just lightning. It's like, yeah. I was just excited that there was lightning.
I know, but you're not supposed to ride over that, but it's like.
Oh,
Spikes on them. Yeah.
I almost popped my tires because of palm
Palm trees. You don't get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I was like driving on the shoreline last night, and there's just a line of like palm fronds that I couldn't get around.
She went over.
So I had to go over them.
You can also get out.
There's something else.
But yeah.
that would require work.
Yeah. No. I have people for that. Anybody else? Yeah?
my dog got wet.
Good talk, Hans. Okay.
Yo, well, my dog got muddy.
Every time we start with the real rain, I got to tell students a little something, and then we got to move on to school stuff, so I don't really want to make a huge production out of this. But I have been a mushroom aficionado for like a very long time now.
Did you eat something that wasn't the best?
And the most important thing that you should take away from today's conversation is that you really should not eat a wild mushroom unless it's been identified by an expert, and you probably are not an expert. Okay. A quick little detail. A quick little detail. Like a rattlesnake is always a rattlesnake, and they're always venomous because they're always rattlesnakes. And a gopher snake is never venomous because it's always a gopher snake, and gopher snakes are not venomous. Likewise, there are mushrooms which will kill you, and mushrooms which will sort of bum you out, and some that are kind of not worth eating, and some that are freaking glorious. And they're just species. You just gotta know how to tell the gopher snake from the rattlesnake, or the good mushroom from the bad one, and there's no mystery, and there's no guessing, and there's no statistical odds of anything except not knowing the difference between one and another. So the same way that you can learn the way to tell the difference between snakes, you can learn to tell the difference between mushrooms. The difference is there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of species of mushrooms. So it's a little harder, it takes more practice, you gotta have a lot more training. Okay. I have eaten 138, I think, different species of mushrooms. I've probably eaten at least 400 or 500 pounds of mushrooms in the last few years. I eat mushrooms almost every day. I've also identified many hundreds of mushrooms that I know were not edible, and I can probably I can probably get down to the genus level for a few thousand different species now. I can at least get them to the genus level. I've been doing this for a long time. If you want, I can help you. We can hunt mushrooms together. I can show you where to look, whatever you want. And for many, many years now, I've had this thing where every year when the rain starts, I tell my students, keep your eyes open for mushrooms. If you find mushrooms, get me a clean, focused photograph. And usually I can't tell exactly the species from your photograph. There's a few, but not many. Most of the common ones in Santa Barbara are actually not that big of a deal. So almost everybody will go and take a picture of the same one mushroom that's inedible. But there are a couple to look for. Stuff growing in trees, take photographs. Stuff that's big, like bigger than a golf ball, take photographs. And in particular, if you want to know like the holy grail of Santa Barbara mushrooms, which we coincidentally have lots of in Santa Barbara County, it's called a chanterelle. It's a big apricot yellow mushroom. There are other yellow mushrooms that will kill you, so don't eat it. But if you find large yellow mushrooms in undisturbed oak woodland, undisturbed, like nothing there, like just plain old open forest floor in oak woodland, take photographs. If they're real chanterelles, I will drive over there and we'll figure that out that moment. I will drop anything. I have. Yes. Okay.
I will drop my baby. Come on.
I will drop your baby. Now, a quick little asterisk. How many of you have seen Contagion by now? I think those of you who saw it in the last couple of nights hopefully thought it was kind of like worth watching, and you can see the relationship to my class and why we talk about it in the disease conversation. There is one part of that movie which everyone agrees, and the CDC sort of apologized for. For theatrical narrative purposes, they had to speed up the timeline of developing a cure. Just so you know, a lot of the stuff in that movie was actually like very carefully tuned to be accurate, except for the time frame. The rate of mutability in the disease is probably accelerated, and the rate of development of medical treatment is highly accelerated.
You mean
It's probably impossible for any illness to have that time frame from start to finish. Okay? How many of you have shared debate preparations with somebody in your group? The rest of you are going to die. Now, please take out your 6.3. We've got so much to do. We're going to do that whole assignment today, and I got to talk about a bunch of it, so I hope you're on it. If you didn't do the homework, I'm warning you, you're bummed. Yeah. What? Last night?
Yeah.
I don't know. My hunch is 2.5 inches, 2 inches. Where? You mean Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
2 inches, I would guess. Bobro, where's your house?
Trial level?
Drop club?
Yeah.
Did you guys get like 10 inches plus?
I didn't measure it, but it was a lot. This car is like half that.
Yeah, I believe it was.
How much? Where? Yeah, that's the problem. Like, you go up in elevation, like Mission Canyon on Ty Road will get double what the Mesa gets. The Mesa will get like a lot more. Yeah, so 5 in Ty would probably mean 2 inches here. Yeah,
So there was I guess there was like a bucket like this, and it was like pretty much like this.
almost full. Yeah. Well, from the have we talked about this? That you can see my dome from where you are.
Yeah.
I built a geodesic dome just above the Trop Club. So which house do you live in the Trop Club?
Number 9.
So you come in on the main road and it's like goes down. There's you know where Russ lives?
I think so.
Ann and Mike,
Yeah.
wife. Yeah. Where do you live in the rest of them? Just before on the left.
You turn on that left, and then like that's in the corner.
If you look up the mountain at the West Camino houses, from the road that drops down to the Trop Club, see a big round green tent sometimes? I built that.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Do you have a stick there that works? It's not that
Maybe later. Yeah.
What's snow level?
What?
What's snow level?
Here?
Sure.
Zero.
Here? 3,600, I would guess. 4,000? Probably higher. It was a Pineapple Express. Higher. All right. 6.3 vocab.
You're yelling at like bring out your dad.
What?
You're yelling at like bring out your dad.
A carcinogen is anything which causes cancer. Mutagen is anything that causes mutations. Teratogen is anything that causes developmental problems. You look this up.
Can you repeat that?
Cancer, mutation, developmental problem, and allergy. Carcinogen causes cancer. Mutagen causes mutation. Teratogen causes developmental problem. Allergen causes allergy.
Why is it called teratogen?
Someone told me if you Google the Terado part, it's a root word. I just can't remember what it was.
That means developmental.
Are there any questions in the vocab from the beginning until methylation? Because I got to talk about methylation. Methylation is a 2-star term, yes? That's when you can identify pollution coming from one place, like a power plant. That's a point source. As opposed to stuff that's just kind of diffused, like dust in the air. That doesn't come from one place. It comes from like a little bit everywhere. Some places are dustier than others, but you can't really tell where the smokestack is. Yeah?
Was the grasshopper effect just the air pushing pollution towards the stairs?
Yeah, high altitude, like it jumps over land. It jumps. It's the high altitude part that's critical. Yeah?
Do you know that grasshopper?
You need to know the concept. The real graph is more complicated than that, so you need to at least know that concept. What else? Like delivering pollution long distances is the grasshopper.
Through wind, right?
Yeah, high altitude wind is the key part. Okay, I'm warning you, this vocabulary term is completely critical to your life in apes, and by the way, there's a little tiny bit of chemistry involved that you'll have to know. It's not tricky, but get ready to take notes. Please look up. This is methane. This is called a methyl group. And you can keep watching. I'll give you a second to type in a minute. A methyl group attaches to other stuff in a process called methylation. R means other stuff. So, when CH3 gets stuck to something else, that's called methylation because you've attached a methyl group. Write that all down real quick.
So when it attaches to something, it becomes CH.
So when CH3 attaches to what?
Does it have to be CH3 to be a methyl group? Okay.
Here we go. Chemistry happens. Stuff sticks together. Reactions, products, reagents, bonding, splitting, chemistry, stuff, atoms, ions, all that crap. Okay. That basic concept, that stuff happens, that's chemistry. And then there's this one ingredient of chemistry called CH4. That's natural gas. That's why you can light your farts. And yes, you can. CH4 doesn't really stick to other stuff. CH4 is stable, it's not sticky, but please look up. There's this thing called a methyl group, and that is sticky. Methyl groups clump onto things. They spontaneously make reactions all over the place. Methyl groups in the air, methyl groups inside the guts of bacteria, methyl groups probably in your digestive system somewhere. And the vocabulary term, please look up, is when a methyl group gets stuck to something that's called methylation. Okay?
And then that turns into CH4 methane.
Oh, other things can happen. I'm not saying that chemistry's over, but here's why methylation is important. Your cells are stupid. You and me and all other humans, we are stuck with genes that were really good for being naked hunter-gatherers in the savanna of the tropics. We're really built for that. So your body is tuned perfectly like a high-end sports car, and we're just not doing that. We do something different, like dropping that high-end sports car in the middle of the ocean. So your cells, they are really good at finding energy. Your cells are good at that. Because in the environment where you evolved, there were very few rare, spectacular carbon bonds. The sugars, the fats, the starch. Everybody understand what I'm saying? All of those things have carbon bonds. Your cells find carbon bonds. Everybody wake up. Here comes your critical ingredient. You'll notice that's carbon and hydrogen. That's a lot of energy potential. When your cells see that, they go, oh, carbohydrate, that must be useful. Your cells are not picky. Because the environment where you evolved, anything that had a carbon and a hydrogen, it was good for you. Imagine, when you were running around like a bunch of stray dogs, or when your ancestors were running around like a bunch of stray dogs, anything that had carbon, your cells would be like, yes! Think about it. If you had to go run around in the savannah, how the hell would you find sugar, carbs, and starch? Your body needs that. So your cells were never picky. They're designed very simply to absorb all carbon with hydrogen. Here's why this is important. Today, in our modern world, carbon and hydrogen get stuck to things which are not good for you. Like DDT, that has carbon and hydrogen.
So our body would break down DDT thinking it's energy?
No, your body's stupid. Your body goes, yeah, carbon and hydrogen. Once you get DDT in your cells, they can't break that down. Your cells can only break down sugar, fat, and starch. So they'll soak up all that DDT in like a bunch of stupid pack rats. They're like, yeah, I'm going to keep that forever. And so your body scores all this DDT, and then you get full of DDT, and then you die because it's also toxic. It's like racial profiling. Like, it's not a very good way to make decisions. It's not a very fine tool. Your cells are just like, oh, carbon and hydrogen must be good. Come on in. So now please look up. When mercury gets methylated, your cells absorb it. And so your stupid cells are soaking up something that kills you. Here's a fun fact. Have you all heard that mercury? How many of you have heard that mercury is bad for you and it gives you cancer? Are you aware that it's 13 places? Most of them are right around here that it gives you cancer. Fun fact, okay. Here's the good news. If you have a marble-sized glob of mercury, and listen very carefully because I don't want you to try this at home. If it were pure elemental mercury, like just plain mercury, which it's not usually, like if you can get it, it won't be. But if you could get your hands on a bead of pure elemental mercury, you could eat it, and like a stranger running through your house, your cells would just be like, Okay? And then you crap it out. Go blink, fall in the toilet, no big deal, you're fine.
What was the person? Because it's not
Like
seeing.
a stranger running through your house. It's like, okay.
I would freak out if some random person came through my house.
He just goes through the front door and then runs out the back. And that's it. That's all you see.
Thank you for following me, bro.
Oh, I thought you were like a page and you saw a random guy running.
No, it's not
Random cat inside my house.
Okay, so we can move on from the stranger thing, but the point is, your cells don't absorb mercury. They don't. You can eat mercury and crap it out, you won't die, and it won't make you sick, and it won't give you cancer, if it is pure elemental mercury. They don't have a mechanism for this. They don't recognize it. They don't absorb it. They don't handle it. Your body's like a straw. You know, you can like pass string and then like floss your whole digestive system, right? Were you aware of that fact?
Thank you.
Stop.
Pretty sure the stomach acid would burn some of that up. But
Nope. Okay.
okay.
Nothing kills floss. It is immortal. The same way that you can floss, mercury goes all the way through, no big deal. Mercury goes all the way through. Except, please look up, if it is methylated. Because there are some bacteria that do chemistry that spontaneously, as a byproduct, sticks methyl groups onto mercury. Now when that stuff gets in the environment, your cells go, yes, carbon and hydrogen, sweet. And once they get it in there, they're like, I don't have a way to digest that. And so your cells are stupid. They're like pack rats. You know what I mean by pack rats? Like those crazy psychos that keep newspapers from 40 years ago. Like that's going to be useful one day. Hoarders? Yeah, your cells are hoarding. So it's like, oh yeah, 40-year-old newspapers. Sweet, I'll use that someday. Your cells go, oh yeah, carbon and hydrogen, I'll use that someday. But your cells don't have a chemistry way to do anything with that. And once that mercury gets into your body, it's a heavy metal, you know, you get cancer, whatever.
Stays in your body forever.
Yep. Okay.
That was
Very nice.
pretty unique sneeze you got there.
And indeed it is. Yes, that was a sneeze. That's cool. That's cool. We're all right. Snap out of it. This methylation thing will come up later, but I got to be really clear. It is the process of sticking. It's a chemistry term. It's the process of attaching a methyl group. Now, for the biology, that's important because your cells are stupid hoarders. Everybody got it? It makes something inert be absorbed in your body. More vocab, more vocab, more vocab. Grasshopper effect we know about. Look at your vocab. LD50, ED50, TD50. Lethal dose, effective dose, toxic dose. Everybody got it? Why the 50?
50%.
Yeah, but why the 50%? What's that? Wouldn't you want to know the lethal dose to kill everybody?
Well, yes, but 50% is good. Yes.
Come on.
You don't kill anything.
Because if everybody, like, it doesn't really matter once you get past, like, 90% of the population.
Well, why is it 50 then? Come on, yeah?
Is it the minimum that can kill someone?
Well, the minimum would be the LD1. Like, if it kills one person, that's the minimum. Why is it LD50? Why is the
minimum amount
lethal
to kill
dose for
50
half?
people?
What?
The minimum amount to kill 50 people?
Yeah, but why do we care about that 50? Why is that the magic number?
Because, like, that's,
Probably.
like, the smallest amount that we have to be able to, like, repopulate.
No, it's not about repopulation. Why is it 50? Look,
Because it
this is
is.
not trivial. It's the whole point. LD50, ED50, TD50. What's the 50? Lethal, effective, toxic. Why 50? Who cares? No, it's the amount required to affect 50% of a test group. Why 50?
I don't know, just tell us.
Like, maybe it affects the dose. If you want to kill everybody, like you could give them too much and then give like an inaccurate thing, then I realize that was stupid.
Yeah, so you want to kill everybody. So, why 50?
Is something with like tested? No.
Because that's how you know you have the average. You know, different people tolerate different things. Like, how much bacon does it take to kill an average human?
You gotta test like
If we have like a little tiny mini human like Raina, we could probably kill her with like a pound of bacon. But if you have a big old black hole for bacon like me, I can eat 400 pounds of bacon and still be hungry. Okay, and Mackenzie fell too. So my point is, there's like, please look up variation in what you can tolerate. Variation. Some of you are tiny, and some of us are giant. Well, you're not tiny? Okay, so there you go. My point is, you don't know what's really toxic if you just killed off the first one. What if they were sick? What if they're a wimp? What if they're a miniature? What if they're a freak? If you just killed 2 out of the population, what if they were the weakest 2? What if they had a cold? What if there's some weird chemistry? If you just killed off 3, well, you've just found the 3 weakest, but that doesn't mean that's a very valuable number. When you get to that 50-50 point, now you know that's the average human in the test subject, or the average rat in your test pool. That's why we do 50, because it's for the population average. You know, some people don't respond to Tylenol. So how many pills do you need if you don't respond to Tylenol? Who knows? That freak weirdo doesn't respond at all. So if we just figure out what the 50% mark is for people saying, yeah, that Tylenol's working, then we know the average dosage for humanity. It's the 50% mark. Yeah? Questions? Yeah? No? Just so you know, it's been on every AP test. 50 because it's for average of the population. It's the median.
What's
Yeah.
the difference between lethal and toxic dose?
Lethal is what it takes to kill you. Toxicity may not be killing you. Like some toxins just change your skin color, or just make you blind, or just make you throw up, or just give you diarrhea. Toxicity is very different from lethality. A lot of stuff's toxic, very little lethality.
You know silver will actually make your skin blue.
No? Cool. Oh, if you just wear it a lot?
Not just wear it, like people will have like drink it thinking it was like a dietary supplement, and then their skin turns blue for like a very large amount of time.
Andy Murphy, he turned blue. So people turn blue.
Next vocabulary term.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm going to hurt your mom's feelings with this vocabulary term.
Oh, what is it?
Because Santa Barbara has some of the most mistaken people in this subject area. The term I want to discuss is detoxification. Detox. Now, first we should talk science. You can detoxify soil by removing a pollutant. You can detoxify water by filtering it. You can detoxify the air by filtering it. To detoxify means to remove something toxic. Detox. Everybody got that?
Good.
Now comes the part where, unfortunately, there's a lot of idiots in the world, and I hope I don't hurt your mama's feelings. Maybe your feelings. Let me finish. How many of you have heard of detox diets or detox cleanses? That's a lie. So detox diets might make you feel good. I'm not saying that they're not like a thing you'll respond to. Changing your diet will make you feel good no matter what you're changing, because when we get into a dietary rut, anything you change about your diet, like when vegetarians go to meat, they love it. And when carnivores go to vegetarianism, they love it. When people become vegans, they love it. And when you do the same thing over and over, your body suffers. Like a stray dog, you're built to have variation in your diet. So some people are like, you've got to try this detox diet. It's like chai with like lemon juice and like cat piss. And it's awesome. And I'm like getting rid of all of like the pollution from the air, man. For example, idiots believe in that. I'm not saying it's bad for you. Like fruit juice? Duh, yeah. Like for sure. And if you don't have a lot of fruit, all the better. I'm not saying fruit juices are bad. Don't misquote me. Fruit juices are good. But listen, your cells, they're a really blunt instrument. They basically use racial profiling. Your cells are like, yeah, that looks useful. And they don't know. Your cells are stupid. Your cells evolved in a planet that had 100 ingredients in your diet. So your cells go, yeah, okay, that looks good. And then they'll store all kinds of stuff which is bad.
What was that?
The concept of toxins in your blood, that's accurate. The mistake is not whether or not it feels good. And the mistake is not whether or not there are toxins in your blood. The mistake is to think you can somehow make your cells get rid of those, because you can't. Say what? Total scam. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't, it's coincidentally really good for you. Whatever's in that food is probably great. And by the way, whatever you do to change your diet is probably great. People just lie about what it's doing. Like if you change the color of your poo, that doesn't mean you're getting rid of your toxins. I've heard people be like, no man, you should have seen my poo, it was black. It's like, great, okay, well, there's just change the color of your poo. Yeah.
Not supposed to be black.
Daniel, what? Daniel, what? Blood in your stool, yeah.
If you're you die.
If you do something like doctor
I just can't hear you at all.
Okay. If you eat something toxic, it builds up over time, it will just stay there indefinitely.
Well, mostly. I mean, your cells do switch out over time. And technically, you can filter your blood. But you'll know that your blood's getting clean because you'll be tied up to a giant machine paying like 30 grand a day in a very specialized hospital. You can do that.
Do the research.
Yeah, it's like literally a filter for your blood. And you can do like chelation therapy. If you're not paying 30 grand a day, you're not filtering your blood. How's that?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Isn't that what?
For people who have
it like goes parts of the body where it's like not harmful like fat cells. Why are fat cells like not?
You may be confusing a few things. So your body stores carbohydrates as fat when it's not using them. You know that, right? If you have a lot of sugar, you get fat. Because you're getting a lot of carbohydrates and your body's not digesting them right away. And so it goes, no, we'll throw those for later. We don't need that energy right now. We'll save that up. And so that's what fat is. It's another long chain of carbohydrates. And so there's all this other stuff that has carbon that your cells aren't using. They're like, oh, I thought this was going to be good, but it's just not using it, so I guess I'll put it in storage. Like a hoarder moving all the newspapers to the garage. So your fat cells is where you store all of those. That's why when you eat really fatty fish, those are the ones that are the... Yeah.
So when you, if you store a lot of bad stuff or whatever, and then you burn all your fat, like an exercise or something.
Yeah, so that stuff goes back into solution in your bloodstream. So that's why when people, like marathon runners, if they smoke a lot of pot, will get high while they're running. Because some of those cannabinoids are stored in your fat tissues, and when you burn off that fat, that stuff goes back into your blood, and so you just get like get stoned while you're running. Not that bad. Kind of depends. It depends. Yeah, I mean, it would depend. It would depend what the interaction was. It could be bad, sure. Yeah, and so those toxins, like mercury, we can get back to the specifics. You're never going to break those bonds. Your cells can't digest that. So stuff like mercury gets stored in your fatty tissues, and then when you burn down that fat, it gets back into moving in your blood, and then eventually it gets stored again. It's just like always going to stay in there. It's very difficult for your body to actually split those bonds, so it usually won't. All right. I think we have digressed enough. Anybody want to talk more detox? Remember, I'm not saying it's bad for you. I'm just saying that it cannot change what your cells are storing. Okay. And everybody remember what bioremediation and phytoremediation was from a previous unit?
Like,
Using living stuff to fix a problem, like when bacteria breaks down sewage. Okay, we should really talk study goals. We're almost out of time.
what's phyto as opposed to bio?
Bio is anything alive that includes bacteria, for example. Phyto is specifically plants. So phyto is a subset of bio.
Those are your notes.
They are.
Yeah. And just remember, like, when you sign.
Students, be careful. There must be 2 thumbtacks knocking around somewhere.
Go for it.
All right. Now some study goals. How many of you thought detox diets work, by the way? I have heard other people say it work. Sweet. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah, the cleansing concept doesn't exist. I mean, you can just crap all your food out. That's possible. Take laxatives or eat cotton balls or something. Yeah, yeah, people do that. To like scrub your innards. But that's not inside of you. That's just in the straw.
Ew.
Here's what I mean, that's not inside you, right?
It's
Stuff
just
in your
in
guts
the
is not in
district.
your blood. It's your guts. That's outside of you. That's the straw.
They're like a big donut for you. So weird.
That's because you're crapping a lot, yeah.
So,
But your stomach is a tube.
Having a hole in the middle.
That's part of the straw. Yeah.
Not that
My mom believes that like you can drink your diet. Is that like part of the?
It's easier to digest, yeah. I mean, she can get a lot of nutrition from beverages.
So the detox thing doesn't really go along with that. Like,
You don't change the content of your cells in a positive way.
Right.
Sorry, you don't get rid of toxins in your cells. That's the bottom line is you cannot make your cells dump toxins. You can make yourself crap out stuff in your gut, but that's not in your cells yet. That's in the tube. That's not part of you technically. That's stuff you're carrying that you haven't used yet.
So is it just like a placebo effect or something, or how is it?
No,
There are other very
they
good
work.
effects.
it just
like you
feels
could-
good to drink juice. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's either a placebo effect, very possible, and also possible good benefits of changing your diet. But none of that is your cells getting rid of bad stuff. You can't filter what's inside your cells. Okay.
just remember the juice in the street.
Number 52. What's a hormonally active agent?
Changes your indoor
Endocrine system? It's an imposter. Remember I told you that your cells are stupid? Some other chemical that looks like estrogen will land on an estrogen receptor, and your cells go, huh, estrogen. So dudes, if you eat like an absurd amount of soy for the rest of your life, you will feminize. It's like a very, very, very uncomfortable hormone treatment. Like if you want hormone treatment, talk to a doctor. You can just get little pills. It's very easy. But soy has a chemical which looks like estrogen. It's a hormonally active agent, HAA. That's vocab. Everybody got this? You don't say I move on. Okay. 53, I've got nothing to add. 54 was the math. How many of you want me to do some of these? Sure. I'm going to do the whole thing anyway. Those are practice so that we can do number 54. Watch me. When something is over 100, whatever that is can be rewritten as that same thing percent. Because that's what it means. Percent means over 100. Are you aware of that? That's why there's two zeros and the line, the percent symbol. Are you aware of that? Per 100, yes? So if I have 12 over 100, then that's also written as 12%, right? Because it's the same number over 100. That's what percent means, over 100. So if I say 3 over 100, that's the same as saying 3 over 100. That's what it means, over 100. Are we cool with that? Math 101. Are you aware that if you change the top of the fraction and you change the bottom of a fraction in the same way, you have the same number? So for example, if I add a 0 here, that's the same as adding a 0 there. So making any of these into 100 is just rewriting the bottom as 100, but I got to do the same change to the top. And I haven't actually changed the value, I'm just moving zeros around. Everybody got this? So look at me. Five over 1,000, that's not this. And by the way, just so you know, that's over 1,000. 3 zeros, 3 zeros. How many of you have seen that symbol before? Cool. So now, watch me. If I could move that decimal point once, that would be 100, right? Do we agree with me?
Yes.
So I just got to move the decimal point on the top as well. Please don't talk when I'm doing this. Some kids need help with math. If I move the decimal on both the bottom and the top, we're fine. So 5 1,000ths can be rewritten as 0.5%, because when I move the decimal on both sides, I can make 100 by making that 0.5. Same decimal shift, it's the same value. You okay with that? So 700,000ths. Well, 1, 2, oops. 1, 2, 3 moves gives me 100, so I got to move this one. 1, 2, 3. And that's 0.007%. Are we cool with that? And then I'll do that again. 2 over 1,000,000. Right there. To make that a percent, I just got to move the decimals the same number on both until I end up with something over 100, and that'll be a percent. So I'm going to move this one, watch me, 1, 2, 3, 4 times to get 100. And so now I've got to move 1, 2, 3, 4 times to match. 1, 2, 3 zeros, and I get 0.6.
You're right.
Yeah. 0.0002%. Anybody want to talk more about those? So now look up. We can do 3.3 parts per million. That's 3.3 over 1,000,000, right? Do you know that? APM? So I got to write that out. 3.3 parts per million. To make it into a percent, I just do the decimal trick. The only reason that there is this thing called a parts per million is because scientists are lazy bastards and don't want to write all those zeros. 24.5 parts per billion. That's the same as saying 24.5 over a billion. How many zeros is a billion?
6.
With a billion.
A billion with a B is 9. So watch me. I've got to make that into 100, so I'm going to move a bunch of decimal. Okay, there's a decimal there. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to make it 100. Add it 7 times. So do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's my decimal. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros to fill that gap. Please look up. When you see that in the middle of a science report, of some sort of a publication, that just looks really clunky, and you can't really tell what the hell you're looking at because there's just so many zeros that your brain is like, yeah, whatever. But if you need to compare results, like there's a big difference if you add or remove a zero. It's just kind of confusing. So scientists make these other units to make the numbers stand out more easily. Okay? When you see milligrams per kilogram, that's just another way of saying parts per million. Okay, so milligram per kilogram equals part per million. It's 1,000 divided by 1,000, so it's parts per million.
Just had to do it.
Yep. And so for those of you who don't know, write it in your homework. Milligram per kilogram equals part per million. By the way, I didn't know until I taught that study goal. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Milligram per kilogram equals parts per million. Would anybody like to ask me something about math? I'm sorry that I'm not a math teacher. I don't know how to explain the logic of this. I've just got this trick I've been doing with moving the zeros. If that doesn't help you, I'm sorry. Newsflash, the College Board demands that you know how to do this. It's mandatory math skill. They will ask you on the AP test, sometimes in the essay, to do unit conversions like this. Yeah?
Will it let you use a calculator or no?
No calculators on the AP test. But you notice I didn't need a calculator there.
So then, like, the rule of thumb.
What?
So, like, every math that they're going to give us is going to be, like, easy to do.
Yeah, for the rule of 7, I'll bet you it's either going to be a 7 or a 10 or a 3.5, something that divides cleanly.
So unless it did double this time, too.
That's rule of 7.
Yeah. I think it's rule of 7.
Sorry. Number 55. You need to know smelting, dioxide, and Minamata Bay because they're super globally famous. I'm not going to tell you those stories because I assume you know how to read. But I'm glad that you do your homework like good students. In number 56, your book didn't say enough about thermal pollution and light pollution, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that you have a ton of notes for 56. It says this is going to be a huge study goal, and it should be. That's all the major types of things that are pollutants. In your homework, for number 56, your book didn't say a lot about thermal pollution, and I have a famous example. Has anybody here ever been to San Onofre Beach near San Clemente? Has anybody here ever driven down to San Diego, and as you're driving on 405, you see those two huge, like, concrete that look like boobs? Everybody knows what I'm talking about? Okay. So those are a power plant. It's a nuclear power plant. And nuclear power plants use water to cool down steam. Just so you know, that water is not radioactive. There's nothing radioactive about cooling water. A fun fact, if you surf San Onofre, it's like a really classic cobbly bottom longboard spot. It's really fun, long waves. San Onofre has these like huge globs of hot water from where coolant water is dumped into the ocean. And you all know, like, when you're next to somebody in the pool, what it means if there's a hot spot in the water. Right? Especially if it's yellow, you know what's going on. Yeah?
Are they dumping fresh water into salt water?
No, it's ocean water going back to the ocean.
Just making sure.
Now, The wacky thing about that hot water at Santa Onofre is when you're surfing, it feels awesome. If you get that like pocket of hot water, it's like, oh, my feet, like it's so nice. So all the surfers, like they know where to paddle to go find the hot spot. But the funny thing is, thermal pollution is actually a really serious pollution because animals get stuck. Imagine a migratory fish goes, ooh, hot water, I must be in Mexico. And then winter comes along, and they've got this little tiny bubble of Mexico. Like, dang, Mexico got really small, but at least it's hot here. And they'll just keep swimming in circles in that little pocket of hot water. And then the power plant shuts off, do some regular cleaning, or people don't need electricity. And the water cools off, and you get like sea turtles stranded on the beach. And like apparently that's a really big deal for fish in rivers. They think they had found like spawning grounds, and they're in the middle of some freezing river somewhere. They got a little pocket of hot water. Or manatees. Manatees are like attracted to power plants because of this, so they get hit by boats. So it's called thermal pollution. Here's a good one. In some places, like I think in San Diego and probably in Santa Onofre, there's a higher incidence of sea snake bites.
There's sea snakes here?
Yeah.
What?
They're very rare here. I've seen one in Santa Barbara.
Are you
actually.
serious?
Yeah, when I was in college, we had like a crazy hurricane storm. When Campus Point was peeling toward depressions, it was like a clean right, and it was like straight on shore at Campus Point.
Yeah, because I saw sea snakes in Vietnam. I didn't know that they were here.
Yeah, so they live in Mexico waters, and when there's hot enough water, they come this way. Anyway, when you have thermal pollution, there's a higher incidence of sea snake bites. About the size of like.
And don't you die if you get bit by a sea snake, right?
Surface water.
Like, don't you just, you're dead?
Depends on where. No such thing. No, I mean, they're pretty deadly though. In this class, did I give you the 4 losers from light pollution? Migratory birds, sea turtles,
No, I don't think that.
humans who like the stars, and nocturnal animals.
Yeah.
You did that?
Wait, do it again, remember? No, you didn't.
Well, all of you who packed up, you're not going to get them. Here it comes. This wasn't in your book. There are 4 main losers from light pollution. Remember the light pollution thing? One of them is obviously the migratory birds. They get confused, like the ducks all try to land in LA and there's no lakes there. Another one is nocturnal animals, because nocturnal animals are out at night when it's dark. So if there's lights everywhere, they stay home. What? Then the third one is baby turtles, because they're trying to find the ocean when they hatch and they get pulled into populated areas. That's another loser from light pollution. And the fourth is just us humans that like to see the stars. That's an aesthetic issue. I wish we'd had more time because 57 is the big deal, but someone has to remind me we're ready to start 57 on Monday.
So the water coming from the
Or on Wednesday.
water coming from the power plant, there's nothing wrong with that water?
Besides it being